there's a ton of companies trying to change how enterprises work with each other. One company led the pack by winning TechCrunch 50 2.5 years ago, and that company's Yammer. We're going to hear about what they've been doing lately to change work even further. Who are you?
I'm David Sachs, the founder, CEO of Yammer, which is creating a private, secure enterprise social network. It's a social network just for the employees of a company.
Yep. And I've been watching this space, and I keep seeing other companies copying you.
Right.
What do you think about that? Being the R&D department for entire industries.
Right. Well, we've inspired a lot of copycats. I guess that's good on some level because it means that people are really excited about what we're doing. A similar dynamic occurred when I was doing PayPal. It was like 10 years ago, and you had a bunch of startups sort of copying us, and then also you had big companies trying to copy us as well. And I think there's a similar sort of dynamic happening now, where you've got both sort of startups and large companies trying to get into our space. But I think they always tend to underestimate the difficulty of creating a product like this, and the fact that we have a 2.5-year head start on all of them. So.
Yeah. Well, there still is, even though it's inside the enterprise, there's a network effect, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that early start, even though it seems like it's not important at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
it really turns into an avalanche.
Right. Well, there's a network effect in two ways. One is that there's a network effect within the company. So the employees of a company can just start signing up, spread it to their coworkers, and once that happens, it's less likely that they'll want to do that with a copycat product. The other type of network effect is actually between company networks. So Yammer introduced this feature called Communities, which allows you to create essentially an external group to communicate with partners, customers, vendors, suppliers, contractors. Basically, external constituencies are important to your company. And so it starts to link together these previously separate company networks. So there's a little bit of a network effect there as well.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see that being used, for instance, by we've got consulting firms who use Yammer internally, but then they create communities for their client engagements, and starting to see communities being used more and more that way as well.
Yeah. When you first came on stage at TechCrunch 2.5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
it really did look like a Twitter, right?
Right.
Just a stream with very simple features. Now it's more complex. There's a lot more you can do. Give me a
Right.
sense of what you can do with it that
Right.
you couldn't do in those early days.
So I think the part that we took from Twitter that was important was this idea of a real-time feed. But even since the day we launched, we didn't restrict messages to 140 characters, and we enabled you to have threaded conversations, and so you could sort of reply to messages in line. You could like messages, and you could also attach things to your messages, files. So we were never we were always, I think, a little bit more than Twitter for Enterprise, but it was a little bit more sort of a fully featured social network for Enterprise. But you're right that we've added a lot of functionality to it. So one big thing that we added early on was groups. The thing that we added more recently was applications.
What do those do?
Well, for instance, you can create different types of messages now. So it's not just sort of a plain vanilla status update. You can now create a poll, and then so you can essentially survey the employees of the company very quickly, and people can vote in the feed for whatever the answers are that you set up. You can also post an event, and then people can RSVP and download to their calendars. We have a questions app, which you can already ask questions on Yammer, obviously, through a status update, but this creates a little bit more structure around it so that if somebody's asked the same question before, it'll detect that and kick you off into that answer instead of creating a new post. So and one other app that we're working on internally that's sort of in private beta is an ideas app as well, which again, you could always post ideas on Yammer, but this allows you to create a little more structure around them. You can create lists of ideas, and people can vote on the ideas. So it just adds a little bit more structure to the data in Yammer.
Are you starting to build a reputation score for people who interact with the system?
We are working on something that touches on that, but we're not ready to kind of release it yet. But I wouldn't necessarily call it a reputation system, but we are very interested in this question of who knows what in a company, who are the experts, that sort of thing. And so there's some work that we're doing there.
Everybody understands they need social, they need a real-time system, they need a collaboration system. I think that's pretty common. Now it's like, what do you do with this stuff? What do you do with this real-time data that's coursing through these feeds? And reputation and credibility and knowledge is certainly one thing that's studied. And compensation, I think, is going to be the next one. Who gets the bonus?
Well, I guess the part of that, I'm not sure you want like a compensation app on Yammer necessarily, but I think the part of it that is true is that Yammer does help expose who the people are in the company or who have sort of hidden expertise and who are contributing the most and who other people go to for answers. And so I'm not sure.
So why not compensate on that basis?
Well, I think maybe companies should. I'm just I'm not sure that's functionality we need to provide, but yeah, it's this whole idea of revealing who has the answers in a company is something that's very interesting to us, and we're going to be doing more with.
Where I was going with that is, what are you learning? You're dealing with some really big companies now.
The best part about the reception to Yammer has been that it hasn't just been small companies who've adopted it. It's been, major Fortune 500 type companies. Just last quarter, we signed 6 new Fortune 500 customers, including Chevron, which I think is the 3rd biggest company in the world. And so we're learning a lot about how these big enterprises work and the kinds of tools they need. And one thing that's very interesting, I was visiting with one of our customers who's a top 5 entertainment company in the world, and the thing they told us, what they love about Yammer, is that it's probably the only system in use that the entire company can get on, because they've done a bunch of acquisitions, and so even something like email, they've got a bunch of different email systems running, and they recently.
Probably some has Lotus Notes, some have Exchange, and some have Google.
It just takes months and months to sort of like bring all these things into like alignment. And they recently did a really big merger, and the other company was using Yammer too, and all they had to do was call us and say we want to merge these networks, and the next day they were all on the same network. It's just one company, and the rest of their systems are going to take them 6 months or a year or years to integrate all their other systems. So Yammer, for a lot of enterprises, is the only place you can have a truly enterprise-wide conversation.
So what are you learning by studying companies that have this now? Because they didn't have it 10 years ago.
Right.
I mean, we had Exchange, that was
right.
it. Or SharePoint.
Right. Well, what we found is, we've done a lot of studying of like what are the ramifications of Yammer, what sort of benefits does it create, and we see things like companies that use Yammer, their employees feel more engaged. They feel more connected to their coworkers. They feel more connected to the company's mission, and as a result of that, you actually have less employee turnover. So Deloitte in Australia is one of the Deloitte offices, which uses Yammer quite heavily, studied their employee turnover and found that among active Yammer users, their standard employee turnover is about 20%. But with Yammer, it went down to about 2%. So it makes a really big difference there.
I've heard that from, I was just at the World Economic Forum, and one CEO who runs a company, I forget the company's name, but it's 100,000 employees, and he said, yeah, if you enable employees to just blog to each other, which is sort of like Yammer,
right.
The retention rates go way, way up.
At least among the people who are engaged enough to do that, because you're giving them an outlet to be more engaged as an employee. So, so yeah, I think that does have a really big impact. We also see that there's a lot of benefits around reducing email load. We've had teams that are using Yammer report that they have like 1/3 less email. A lot of our users report that it helps them get answers to questions faster. It helps them coordinate with their teams better. So there's all these sorts of benefits.
Yeah. When I worked at NEC, which is a 100-something thousand employee company, I left with a gig of email, and nobody has. I don't have access to that email, and the company doesn't have access. And a good third of that was resources. Was like, here's the name of a weird server that has a weird thing on it, and here's
It's just a lost knowledge base, and I think that is a big part of the benefit of Yammer, is that you get a lot of these conversations that don't need to be private out of email. I mean, at least it's not. They don't need to be private to the rest of the company. Maybe they don't need to be seen by people outside the company, but there's that whole category of knowledge where you answered questions and you would create a lot of content that helped explain things, and that's just lost as soon as you leave the company. But if you had answered those questions on Yammer or posted your ideas on Yammer, then they'd be there forever, even after you leave the company.
On the outside world, people probably have two accounts, right? They have, like Mike Arrington, I know, has a Yammer account, and he has a Facebook account.
Mm-hmm.
Are we ever going to see the two merge, or are we going to see?
I don't believe that we should be trying to get to one inbox for everything. I think people need different tools for different types of communication, and I think there's definitely a need for, sort of a separate tool for internal company conversation, and that's what Yammer provides.
Yeah. What are you seeing happen around you?
Well, I think as we were talking about earlier, there's sort of we're in this phase of the market now where a lot of people are trying to get into it, and so we're kind of seeing this broadening of the market, but also there's just a lot more attention that's being sort of directed to the market as well. So I think on the whole, it's all very good for us. We were the first ones to create this product that we called Enterprise Social Networking, and now just over the last couple of years has gone from an idea that people were in the tech world were excited about it because we won TechCrunch 50 and they thought it was promised, but outside Silicon Valley, I think the idea of Enterprise Social Networking was sort of this was still, people were pretty skeptical about it, or it was somewhat dubious, and now I think the idea's become more inevitable, and I think people understand that every company's going to have its own enterprise social network. So it's a really big market, and there's a lot more people getting into it, but also that reflects sort of this positive underlying trend that it's just that there's just a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. I noticed you got even more employees than you did last time I was here,
Right.
which is pretty impressive.
Yep.
That tells me probably sales are going up, profits are you profitable yet?
We're not really trying to be.
Okay.
So that would limit our growth.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think you were here about a year ago, and the size of the team now is we're over 100 employees, and we're moving on to another floor. So we got the second floor here as well. So yeah, it's just it's really growing fast, and we're still hiring, like you said, in sales and in engineering as well. So we're looking for frontline sales reps, a lot of sales support functions, account management. One of the things we're really building up now is our customer success team. We have we give dedicated account managers to all of our enterprise contracts. So that's a whole area that we're building up. And then on the development side, we're building up a lot of these application teams, and we're hiring designers, product managers, just really across the board.
Yeah. Is it tough to find talent right now? 'Cause it sure seems that way. Every entrepreneur says, man, it's tough right now to find good people because everybody's hot.
Yeah, I think the market feels really. I think we are at a point where the market is very hot. We've had quite a bit of success. I think we've hired like 50 people in the last 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
So we've been growing pretty fast, but yeah, it is tough. The biggest gating factor on our revenue right now is just our ability to hire sales reps, because we've got this enormous pipeline of over 100,000 companies that are using Yammer. They're all kind of warm leads. They're all ready to kind of talk to us about upgrading, and we've been hiring a lot of sales reps, but we're still looking for more. And as soon as we can hire people that we think can understand the freemium model and sell Yammer, the faster we'll grow revenue.
Wow. Are you sensing the investors are continuing to be interested in pouring money and gassing up, or are we going to start switching into a different mode of funding, I guess?
We raised $35 million last year, and we still got like $30 million in the bank because we are generating quite a bit of revenue. So we're very well funded. I think while other people get funding, personally, my 2 cents to VCs would be it's a little bit late if you're trying to invest in this space now. But who knows, that's never stopped people before. So we'll see.
So what's next? What are we going to see from Yammer in the next 3-6 months?
A lot of cool stuff. We're already in private beta on a completely new desktop client that will be a huge improvement over the one we have today. It'll be fully threaded. As opposed to the stream, so you can see replies in line. It helps follow conversations. So that's coming, and our customers are sort of in private beta testing right now, and that'll be released in the next couple of weeks.
What's the technology you're building that up?
It's an Air app.
It's an Air app.
Yeah.
So. Very cool.
Yep.
Well, we can't wait to see what you guys continue to do so everybody
Well,
else
you're going to
can
see,
copy
you know,
it.
there's new applications
Yeah.
and new apps. And like I said, I think the Ideas app will be coming out pretty soon as well. One thing we just launched was notifications, sort of a real-time notification feed, similar to what Quora does or what Facebook does, which is actually a really useful feature. Anytime somebody takes an action that affects your account, you can see it in real time on the site.
Very cool.
Yeah.
One other thing I didn't cover, APIs. Are you making deals with other enterprise systems to bring data into Yammer?
So integration is really an important part of what we do. From the day we launched, we had an API available that allows our users, our customers, to basically get all their data out of Yammer and pull it wherever they want to. We also have a SharePoint web part which allows companies to integrate Yammer feeds. Any feed from Yammer can just be dropped into SharePoint, which is the most popular company intranet tool. And we're also working on more sort of like widget type approaches so that Yammer can be integrated with other types of tools as well. And then you're going to see us do more as well with activity streams and feeds, so taking data from other apps and bringing them into Yammer. We already do that through RSS and Atom feeds, so if an enterprise tool creates an activity feed based on RSS, we can pull it into Yammer. The problem with doing other types of feeds is that there's no standard yet.
Is there a place to talk to you guys about activity streams and that standard if other people wanted to work with you?
Well, we just hired a new developer evangelist, who's Mikhail Rogers, who's going to be starting very soon. And we've now created this, an interface at least, for developers to contact us. And if they want to get into the private beta on our platform to develop Yammer applications, or if they want to talk about integrating activity streams, then he'd be the right person to talk to as soon as he starts.
Very cool.
Should be in the next couple of weeks.
Very cool. Where do we learn more about Yammer?
Yammer.com.
And are you on Twitter or Facebook?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. It's just David Sachs on Twitter, and we also have a Yammer account on Twitter, and we're on Facebook as well. So we're easy to find.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Good to see you.